Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 18th, Lebanon City Council special meeting. We will have the Pledge of Allegiance to start.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, move on to the roll call members. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mike Kincaid is absent this evening. Keith Campbell.
Here.
Sandra Jasonowski. Here. Dick Robertson.
Here.
John Copeland.
Here.
Sierra Messenger is absent this evening. And Robert Hawkins.
Here.
Thank you.
So we have 5 members, so we have a quorum, so we'll proceed. This time we'll have the second public hearing on the preliminary determination to enter a lease agreement for a new police headquarters. So with that, we'll have Catherine Finello. Apologies to the city council, but this will be very similar to last night's meeting, just kind of a recap of everything as well. So we're kind of going through it again just for additional review as well. So Catherine?
Catherine Finello with Dinsmore and Scholl, serving as Public Finance Counsel. All right, we're here for our second public hearing, preliminary determination public hearing. So why are we here making a preliminary determination? The city has a project it would like to fund, the police station. That police station headquarters exceeds a certain amount, and under the controlled project statute, that means it is subject to the referendum procedures. That threshold for 2026 is $20,605,991. And of course, the police project or police headquarters exceeds that amount. So under the control project statute, two hearings are required before the council can move forward making a preliminary determination to finance the project. That preliminary determination is made in a resolution that you have before you tonight. So after we have the second public hearing, you will consider adoption of that preliminary determination resolution. If you so proceed making that preliminary determination and adopt the resolution, a notice of adoption will be published in the newspaper. That will give the public in the city of Lebanon, the registered voters and property owners in the city of Lebanon, the right to request a referendum if at least 500 people come forward requesting that referendum. What is different here is that the second resolution that you have before you is a resolution electing referendum procedures. So should there not be a sufficient valid petition submitted by at least 500 registered voters and property owners within the city of Lebanon, the city will move forward with a referendum voluntarily. The financing structure for the project is much like the financing structure that you used for this building many, many years ago, which means that the Lebanon Public Building Corporation would issue bonds. The city would enter into a lease with the building corporation for the project. And Baker Tilly, specifically Emma, will talk about the financing and what those costs are and the maximum costs. Information has been made available to the public this evening as required by the control project statute. I believe there are handouts on the table over there. So again, Emma will run through all of the financials.
Any questions from Catherine, or for Catherine from the council?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Emma, we'll have you come next.
Good evening. Emma Adlam with Baker Tilly. For this project, we've prepared 2 scenarios for you, an estimated scenario and a maximum scenario. The maximum scenario is the one that we're going to focus on the most tonight because that scenario is what sets the legal maximums both in your legal documents, and it also sets the amounts that are going to be in the referendum question if you did move forward. Both scenarios, they're pretty similar. They have the same net proceeds available for the project of $45 million. Both scenarios assume 2 years of capitalized interest. That capitalized interest amount is money that needs to be set aside from the bond issue to pay interest during the construction period. Because this is a lease financing, you can't make lease rental payments on a building that hasn't been completed yet. So that's why interest needs to be set aside during that construction period. Both scenarios also have an allowance for an underwriter's discount, and that is the fee that the bond purchaser would buy on the primary market to resell the bonds on the secondary market. And then finally, an allowance for issuance costs. The main difference for the different par amounts is that the estimated uses lower interest rates, more estimated interest rates, and maximum is run in a flat 5.5% to set, once again, to set those maximums for your legal documents. So the estimated scenario, par amount of $50,515,000, the maximum scenario of $52,165,000.
On that, so obviously Catherine's talking about a lease rental bond. And so does the capitalized interest still apply in that situation, or does that change some of those numbers?
Or the lease rental structure?
For the capitalized interest.
So the capitalized interest, we're hoping can be reduced. We're hoping this is a high side estimate, even on the estimated scenario. You are allowed to temporarily lease other assets during the construction periods that you can make rental payments on. And so we're actively working with Kevin and you, Mayor, on identifying like the city hall, the existing police station, buildings that you can lease during that time, so you don't have to set aside that $4.5 million. You might have to set aside some depending on the value of those buildings that have been identified.
So even if but even if we figure out a way to do that and we're actually not going to have to pay as much in capitalized interest, we still have to advertise the 52,165
Yes, because you are locking in, this is the most that you can borrow. In your resolutions, there's also an interest cost associated with that, so you're locked into that maximum principal and interest. And on the next page, you'll see tax rate that you're going to set as the maximum. So these are on definitely the high side, so that you don't go slightly over and then have to go back and restart the process all over again.
Question on that for the next page? Okay, thank you, Emma.
To start on the top of the slide, before we get into the payment specifics of estimated and maximum, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the tax base of a referendum levy, referendum debt service fund. In your normal budget order that you have for your general fund, your current debt service funds, those all have that top line, the pay 2026 certified net assessed value of about $1.6 billion. And so that assessed value, your levy determines all your tax rates. Referendum has a different tax base because TIF areas cannot capture the referendum tax rate, meaning that all of the incremental assessed value within the city's boundaries are added to the tax base of a referendum levy. What this means is that as assessed value goes up from your TIF areas, and as assessed value goes up from the city generally, because you have a trending increase, that the corresponding tax rate will have a downward pressure, because your payment is what it is once you sell the bonds, and as tax rates, or as your assessed value goes up, the tax rate needed for that set payment will go down. To go to the second part of this slide, looking at the estimated and maximum scenarios, both scenarios we're showing a 20-year repayment term, and that's the maximum term allowed for property tax bond issues. Have those estimated par amounts you saw on the previous slide. And then the estimated lease rental payment for the estimated scenario was $4,156,000. The maximum lease rental payment in your documents is $4,689,000. That maximum translates to a tax rate of 0.1903 based on that pay 26 referendum tax base shown at the top of the page. So this assumes no growth. It's based on your current assessed values. That maximum tax rate is 0.1903. For a median home in Lebanon, which the very specific requirement in statute is the median home rounded up to the next $50,000. So a $250,000 home in Lebanon, that 0.1903 would translate to a $216 annual increase. Estimated scenario, because that annual payment is lower, has a lower tax rate associated with it, so that estimated annual payment would be $192.
So, and before we go on, I had this question a lot today online. If a company is in our business park and they've received a tax abatement, for a couple years ago, whatever, right? They're still in the early phases of their tax payment. Is their referendum rate abated at all, or are they paying the full referendum rate?
If there is an abatement, that is a reduction in their assessed value. So the referendum rate is applied to that lower assessed value. As that abatement expires, then that rate will be applied to that growing net assessed value. So this next slide, let me zoom in a little so you can see this a little bit better. This slide looks at the illustrative impact of all of the development activities in Lebanon. So that top portion of this slide has those numbers from the prior, the maximum 0.1903, the median homeowner tax bill of $216. But you know that there's a lot of construction activity occurring in your TIF districts and in the IDD. You know that a lot of investment will be occurring over the next many years. And so this page shows what happens to that tax rate for that individual, that median homeowner, if there's an additional 1 billion of assessed value, 5 billion of assessed value, 10 and 15 billion. 1 billion of assessed value would decrease that median homeowner's tax bill by $64, going all the way up to a $15 billion increase in your assessed value would decrease that impact to the median homeowner by $186, so that tax bill would only be $30 associated with this tax rate. So it's hard to say exactly how much assessed value will be added to your tax base with all of this assessment, but you know there's significant assessment going. So while you have to advertise that $216 as the maximum based on your current assessed value, you know there's going to be some downward pressure on that tax rate given all of the development that is coming down the road for you. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from him on that? Okay, thanks so much. All right, next up, Chief Morgan, do you want to say anything? You weren't able to join us last night, but since you're here, I just thought you may want to comment on the police station condition and.
So I'm going to put this up here for you guys. This is a piece of the police department that fell off last fall onto the sidewalk that I had to go out and pick up. If you drive beside the police department today, you can see a chunk of it missing. That's this. Where would you like it?
Put it up here, Chief. Yeah, there you go. The public can come look at it if they want.
It doesn't stand up. I tried to put a mile. So there's all kinds of things wrong with this building. But to start off with, it was never designed to be a police department. It housed every city office at that time. So currently, we have 6 HVAC systems in there, which constantly go out. We have wiring that the electricians can't figure out. We have probably 6 to 8 breaker boxes that aren't labeled, aren't numbered, nothing, that we don't know what they control. We've had officers lean up against outlets and get shocked. We've had electricians over as recent as last week because our fire alarm is constantly going off, and it has something to do with bad wiring. So they were trying to run new wiring in there. As the council knows, you guys just spent a lot of money, reference our plumbing, because when you'd flush the toilet, it came back up out the floor. It's not a good working environment. If it was my house, I would tear it down. It's dirty. It was built in 1962, and then it was refinished 21 years ago is when they finished refinishing it. And I don't think they planned on us being in there long enough like we are now. I think they redone it to put a Band-Aid on it for a temporary fix, and we should have been out by now, but we're not. I get pictures on a weekly basis from officers taking pictures of cockroaches running around. We have exterminators come in a couple times a month. It doesn't seem to help because according to some of the people who inspected it, the building is a prime, between the ceiling and the roof is a prime mating area for cockroaches or whatever. So we have turned our kitchenette for the officers to be able to put their lunch and stuff, that has been turned into an evidence lab because we didn't have room. I could go on all day long about this stuff if you guys want. This is just off the top of my head, the stuff that's popping in. I didn't plan on speaking tonight, or I'd had something ready. So.
Could you touch a little bit on why the fact that it wasn't purposely built to be a police station, why that makes your guys' job harder?
Well, yeah, obviously, a police department is designed to house evidence, to have an armory, to have an investigations, to have patrol, have admin. Right now, one of my majors is in a IT closet. That's his office because that's the space we had. When they, because I've been there since '94, right? I was in the old police department, which was a small hallway with 2 offices, a bathroom, and a squad room. And we house our evidence in the bathroom. Well, we haven't gone that much farther from that time in '94 to where we're at now. We have evidence that we've had to take a gun cleaning room away because it's the only secure room that we have because we're overflowing with evidence. We have, on top of our armory, that's where we're keeping our files. So when somebody comes up and requests a file, one of the girls have to climb up a ladder, dig through boxes, get the case, come back down the ladder, make copies of it, and then go back up the ladder and put the paper back in. This was never supposed to be a police department. Part of it is still the fire department. If you drive by the west side, we still have the overhead doors for the fire station, which has the vacuum system that they could hook their trucks up to when they're running, still hanging in there. We have just made do the best we can, and it's just not a good environment.
Questions? How old is the building?
Yes.
64 years old.
1962.
Yep, and your microphone, John. Yep.
And you have like 10 or 11 little cubbies for over 42 plus officers to
yeah.
even do their reports or anything.
And thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. Like I said, I wasn't planning on speaking, so I don't have the presentation ready for you. But yeah, we have 8 cubicles that we have 3 officers share each cubicle. And they're not big. They're not big. The thing is as the city grows, which it is, we're going to have more officers. We're already busting at the seam. This won't work. We had DLZ come in and do an assessment of it, and walked them around, and their assessment was this building needs to be tore down, and you need to build a new one. We had people come up and check the air quality, which I have pictures of them wearing masks. Checking the air quality up there, but the officers are in there every day. So we need to do something.
When you were through that building, I was like, I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah.
And I would recommend that everybody in this city go take a walk through.
Yeah, as long as we can schedule it. I don't want everybody showing up just random.
See what we mean, though. That
Yeah,
this
and they do.
is-
They need to see on the east side. You know, we have an overhead door there that was supposed to be for vehicles and stuff. Well, we had to convert it into storing evidence. We had people come and check the roof, which I didn't know this until they came, but that's got the same roof on it that a mobile home does, and it needs to be replaced. But if we're going to do a new building, I didn't want to spend the $300 and some thousand dollars, $300 to $500,000 to replace that roof. So they patched it to make sure our evidence is safe.
A lot of the repairs that you've gotten estimates on previously too add up to so much more.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
we really need to add
Yeah.
that to this building.
Yeah, and the bones of the building aren't good anyway. Kevin, I'm sure can speak more on that kind of stuff. I'm not a construction worker. I'm the chief and the maintenance guy. So, I spend a lot of my free time trying to maintain the building. I got pictures on my phone of the mold on the walls where the assistant chief and I came in old clothes one day and scraped all the mold off and tried to seal it with a sealer. Her office, the window leaked so bad that the walls buckled out and molded. But we've done what we can do, not as construction workers, but try and clean it up and paint over it.
So some people have said that we should try to just do a remediation, fix this current building, add a story on top if we need to.
Yeah.
What do you think about that idea?
Well, I think they tried that 21 years ago, and now we're dealing with it. According to DLZ, it wouldn't be cost effective to do that. And I would agree with them with what I've seen when I bring an electrician in and he takes a cover off of the box and stands there and stares at it, and I ask him, what are you doing? He says, well, I've not seen anything like this before. I said, well, it's from 1962. So then he puts the cover back on. That was when we had the electrical problem and our Coke machine caught on fire from it. One of the guys purchased a pop machine and put it in there, and a few years after, electrical problem, and his pop machine burned up. One of the probably dozen times the fire department's had to be there.
It's funny that after, I guess I'll have to date myself a little bit, but when we moved from the old building to here, okay, that we actually went back at what they needed at that time for what they had. A little bit of that addition, I think the garage was added on, but the rest of it was like putting a shell over everything else, and
Yeah, they painted over everything.
for as long as we could, and I've been in it, I don't, 3 or 4 times, and no, this thing does not need to be any more money put into this thing. It needs to create a new facility, and that facility needs to come down.
I have a question.
Go, John.
You've traveled around, you've looked at some of the other police departments that's centrally located, and looked at some of the new ones that have been built recently.
Yeah.
Technology-wise, of the new ones to what we have, what do you got?
We don't have technology. You can't compare something from 21 years ago till now. And there's no comparison.
Does our IT meet IT of today?
No.
Does the evidence room meet the evidence room of today?
No.
It does in a certain aspect, but
We do what we can to make sure that the chain of custody is good, but we don't have like they do, where the girls do a great job. Let me say that, but they're struggling with what they got.
lacking technology, and the way
Everything.
it's being built.
We lack in everything, to be honest with you, John.
Any other questions for Chief Morgan?
I'd just like to make one comment that I know you will, but I know you will with Kevin's help and the mayor's help and council members here, that we schedule various open houses between
Absolutely.
now and November.
Yeah.
That we can allow so many people in and take them through a little tour to be able to
Yeah.
show them exactly what that looks like.
I'd be more than happy
And to
to.
be able to answer any questions available. And I think if anyone on the council here has not been there, I don't think that's true, but if anyone has not been there, you know, a tour by the council just to go in and look at it one more time to see it again, so everybody on the council knows exactly. So when
Well,
we're talking to people out in the public,
And if you don't want to do that, you can just drive by the outside of it or walk on the sidewalk on the outside. Look at the overhead doors on the west side.
yeah.
The top of them look like they're going to collapse. And I'm waiting for that to happen. I don't know what I can do about it until then.
I still think that the outside is way more presentable. It's a little deceiving compared to what's inside.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
I would agree. But I mean, if you look at the outside and then just assume the inside's worse, you'd be correct.
I wouldn't say the outside's perfect though either, obviously as presented by the
Yeah.
pieces of it that are falling off in front of us, but
Yeah.
yeah. So, okay. Thank you, Chief, appreciate it. Okay, move on to, this is Resolution 2026-22, correct, Sonia? Would you mind reading that for us, please? Then we'll have the public hearing on it.
I can't wait.
Oh, Emma, yeah, sorry. I was gonna do it after the reading of the resolution, and then have the public hearing, and then we'll, yep, we're good.
We're on 22,
Yes,
correct?
22, yes.
Yep. Yep. Resolution 2026-22, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Lebanon, making a preliminary determination to enter into a lease to finance a new police headquarters. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Lebanon, Indiana, has given the consideration to the financing of all or any portion of the cost, design, construction, and equipping of a new police headquarters in the city, together with the acquisition of related real property as required and any related improvements thereto. The total cost of the project, including but not limited to cost of acquisition of real estate, architectural and engineering fees, consulting fees, and legal and financing expenses, certain expenses of operation of the Lebanon Public Building Corp. During the construction and interest during construction will not exceed $54,215,000. Whereas the city has published notice of 2 public hearings in the Lebanon Reporter on June the 6th, mailed such notice to the Boone County Circuit Court Clerk. The council, as the physical body of the city, conducted first preliminary determination on June 17th, 2026, and the second determination on June 18th, 2026. In accordance with the notice and the laws of the state of Indiana, the council has made the following information available to the public at the public hearings. 0.37, the result of the city's current and projected annual debt service payments divided by the net assessed value of taxable property within the city. 16.20%, the result of the sum of the city's outstanding long-term debt plus the outstanding long-term debt of other taxing units that include any of the territory of the city of Lebanon, divided by the net assessed value of the taxable property within the city. All other financial information are required to be provided pursuant to IC Code 6.1. Whereas the council, being duly advised, finds that it is in the best interest of the city and its citizens to negotiate entering into a lease with the building corporation as lessor for the purpose of financing all or any portion of the project, together with any expenses incurred in connection with or on account of the issuance of bonds by the building corporation in order to better serve the residents of the city. The council incorporates and restates the foregoing recitals as if fully set forth herein. The council hereby makes a preliminary determination that there exists a need to construct the project. Accordingly, the council hereby makes a preliminary determination that to the extent permitted by law, the city will take all of the necessary steps to enter into the lease with the building corporation pursuant to the building corporation, and the city will finance all or any portion of the project to better serve the residents of the city. The city and the building corporation will finance all or any portion of the project through the issuance of bonds in one or more series and other funds of the city. The city's lease payments to be paid under the lease will be payable from ad valorem property taxes levied and collected on all taxable property within the geographical boundaries of the city. The proposed lease with respect to the project will have a term of no longer than 20 years, commencing on the date of the issuance of the bonds, with a maximum annual lease rental of $4,689,000. The maximum annual lease rental has been estimated based upon an estimated aggregate principal amount of the bonds in the amount of $52,165, estimated interest rate of 5.5%, and the total estimated interest cost of $35,918,413. The city's current debt service levy is $1.645613 million, and its current debt service rate is 0.1019 per $100 of assessed valuation. After the city enters into the proposed lease and the bonds are issued, the city debt service levy will increase by a maximum of $4,454,550, and the debt service rate will increase by a maximum of 0.1903. The estimated amount of the city's debt service levy and the debt service rate that will result during the following 10 years if the city enters into the lease and the building corporation issues the bonds, after considering any changes that will occur to the debt service levy and the debt service rate during that same period on account of any outstanding bonds or lease obligations that will mature or terminate during that 10-year period. And it has all of the figures under that. The clerk treasurer is hereby authorized and directed to cause the publication of a notice of adoption of this preliminary determination in accordance with IC Code 6-1 and IC Code 5-3. If valid petition pursuant to IC Code 6.1 is received within 30 days from the first publication of the notice, the proposed debt service or lease payments must be approved in an election on a local public question held under IC Code 6-1. The resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage by the council and approval by the mayor as required by law.
Thank you, Tanya.
Yep.
At this time, I'll open the public hearing on Resolution 2026-22. If you have any public comment, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please, and also keep comments to 3 minutes.
Jody Stewart, I'm not going to give my address.
Ma'am, we're having a public hearing. You need to give your address.
Is that written in the law? Is that a law?
As the person that's requesting, that's having the public hearing, we're requesting addresses, please.
Okay, I'll be happy to write that down for you if you need it to put in your notes, but I would prefer not to advertise it since this is being recorded. And
How about this? Are you a resident of the city of Lebanon?
I am not a resident of the city of Lebanon. I'm a rural resident, so I am not going to be able to vote for this, but I did want to speak on it because I've watched the video from last night several times, and so I have some questions. First off, where was the advertising for this? I know you said it was in the Lebanon paper. I did not see that on the city website.
It was noticed in the June 6th Lebanon Reporter.
Okay.
And then also the agendas were posted on the city hall doors 24 hours prior to the meeting.
I see that, but it was not put on the website. Is that not standard?
Our webmaster was out of the office this last week, and so that was caused some of the issues that it wasn't get posted, and it should have been, and we apologize for that, but the legal requirements are in the paper and on the city hall doors, which they were.
Okay. I just want to tell Captain Morgan, I totally support the blue. And it makes me feel good that he came up here and spoke. I don't doubt that our police station does not need to be updated. It's old. And with the technology that's come online. What I do have some issues with is that there were lots of ifs last night. If the city council votes this through, if the city council passes this referendum, if. Were there any discussions or any estimates on redoing the current building? What it would cost to actually go in, gut the building? It sounds like there's some space in there that's not being used, like where the fire department used to utilize area.
It's all being used. It's all being used. And yes, there was about $10 to $15 million to even just get it to kind of where it's acceptable. But it's still too small for our needs.
Okay. And the next thing is, have you guys located a building site for this new police station? It's my understanding that we're going to be losing some low-income housing and that families are going to be displaced in order to build this new station. So I'm assuming that property has already been purchased. And I'm being told these people have been given 30 days to get out. Is the city going to help these people find housing that you're booting out of their home?
So the city has not purchased those properties. We have purchase agreements, but we have not purchased those properties.
Okay, but they've been
So
told
they-
that they have 30 days to get out?
They have a lease agreement with their landlord.
Okay, so is the city going to be helping to help these people to find housing? Because right now that seems to be a problem within the city, that we don't have any low-income housing available,
It's typically not
is my
something-
understanding. Just a thought. And you guys were talking last night that when Meta and Lilly come online, that's going to make the people's stuff come down. It's my understanding that we gave a tax abatement to Meta for about 20 years. So are you including them to come online sooner than that?
It was a 50% reduction on the real property, but it's still.
I'm sorry?
It's a 50% reduction on the real property, but it's still 50%, so still paying taxes.
They're going to still pay 50% taxes. So
Yes.
some of that is being figured in. Lebanon's growth rate over the last 6 years has only been 617 people. Some of these other places that have built new police stations have had anywhere from upwards of 8,000 to 15,000 people as far as a growth rate increase. So I would ask that you guys maybe look at that. Are we rushing this? Because everything I'm seeing is we're expecting. I see a lot of land out there that's been purchased, and I don't see that anybody's buying that other than Meta. So you're expecting companies to be coming in and helping to reduce this for the taxpayers, the city taxpayers. Expecting. So you're getting your cart.
The building's falling down
You're getting
now.
your cart before the horse. I understand the building's falling down. The building's probably been falling down for the last 10 years.
Jody, I think you're 3 minutes.
Next thing, is this referendum, will it be a paper ballot vote? Because that's what the Constitution states, that we should be voting one day paper ballot. So will this referendum be put out as a paper ballot vote? Not
city-
included into the
the-
election ticket?
The city does not run the election. That's handled by the clerk's office. So it'll be a
Okay,
question for them.
well, I'm just bringing that point up. And one more thing. A new station is wanted. Yes, it's wanted, but is it necessary at
Yes.
this point?
Yes, it is.
That's all I need to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Jody. Additional public comment.
Hi, my name's Jan Potter, and I am a resident of Lebanon. Mayor Gentry, you and I both live in homes that are valued higher than the average median home. I personally am not interested in paying $500 a year towards a new police station. I do agree that our people need a new police station. My grump comes in the fact that I don't think they need to spend $52 to $54 million on a new building. I think that's excessive, and If I were a $250,000 home, I would think that $200 a year is too much also. So I think you're asking an awful lot from a home owner's perspective to be covering this. And the fact that the Meta and the Lilly are not on board to pay this for a long time is also a scapegoat for you guys. You have not been clear in when that's going to come on board. You act like it's tomorrow they'll be paying, but they won't. You know that they've got a long time before they'll be paying their fair share for that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So I will say the advertised amount is the maximum. It is absolutely not our goal to spend that, right? That we have to advertise the maximum it possibly could be. Our goal is to spend much less below that, but delivering a product that is needed by our officers, right? So I agree. The $52 million number, that is excessively high, and that is not our goal to spend that. Our goal is to be way less below that. And when we had the interviews, John and Rob, you guys were in those. The design teams we had speak to those. They were confident we could bring a building that was far less below that number. So that is the goal. So what will happen? You guys were in those. Do you want to what they said? Kind of ballpark range. I mean, 35 was kind of the number I think that they saw.
When we had, I think it was 3 of the 5 that came in at the 37 to 35 million. Looking at that, when they immediately came in, that was the first comments they made. We see savings here. So that's why last night I made the point that I understand we have to advertise the maximum amount, but we are not, once we go through what's called the scoping phase and design and everything, I think we're going to see a much lower number. And at that point, then that will be a benefit for the taxpayer because you won't be paying that $216. It'll be lowered. What that amount is going to be, I can't tell you right now, and nobody can because we don't have the exact building design and everything and the figures put in place at this time. We can't do that. But I am very comfortable in saying that I don't see us at that $45 million. It'll be substantially lower.
And when it goes to actually being applied to the property tax bills, it's only the amount needed for exactly what the project is, right? So we're not going to be issuing bonds for $50 million if it's not that much, right? So if it's a $35 million project, it's issued for that, and then it's calculated like then how much should it be based on that. So the number that we would see in the referendum number, that is the maximum possible number, and it's everyone's goal up here, and everyone in the police department as well too, is to come in below that number. And then as Meta and Lilly the issue with them is obviously they have a very long construction period. Lilly paid property taxes on the land last year, so this year they'll be paying the portion of it for what was happening in 2026, right? So assess 26, pay 27, and then the year after that will be where they are essentially this year now for assess 26 or assess 27, pay 28, right? So kind of it lags a couple of years. So that's kind of the issue with it. But as it's coming online, that is a significant amount of tax base that will then they'll pay their fair share of that referendum rate as well too, which will then drop the impact to homeowners as well.
So Lilly doesn't have an abatement, but Meta does.
That's correct. But also Meta also is making, so they have a half abatement essentially, right? So they will be paying half of it for 10 years, but then the full, after that, the real property is unabated after 10 years. But they're also doing community impact payments, $1.5 million per phase per year. And so that is revenues that are to the city that we plan to use for property tax credits to homeowners in the community as well. So that's something else that we looked at, roughly 6,000 homes in Lebanon at $215, whatever it is, it's about $1.3 million. So actually by the time we may be using those property tax or those community impact payments going directly back out to homeowners to relieve the burden from these projects. Yep. And we get it, right? I mean, it's, you see those numbers, they're big numbers, right? And yeah. And the challenge is we live with the rules the legislature gives us, and they do want to make it, they want to present taxpayers the worst possible scenario. Obviously, there are a lot of things happening and changing, and this year's assessed value is very different than next year's as these things start to roll on. So it's a snapshot in time, and frankly, it's part of why we had initially planned to do the referendum in 2027 when we're having our city election, because obviously then that numbers are different and they change. But because the state legislature changed when we can hold referendums, it kind of moved up our timeline, which made it in 2026, not 27. So, I thought cities were exempt from, I knew they moved the schools to the even numbered years. I didn't know they had moved the municipalities as well. It's like we can't hold a referendum about a city project in our own municipal election year. That seemed a little silly to me. So, but yeah, after further review, we are included in that. So we have to do it in even number of years. So that's why this is happening. So agree with you 100%. But again, next year's numbers will look much better. And if we were doing it in 2027, the numbers would be far less. I'm happy to chat afterwards too if you have more questions. Well, and I will admit, it was rushed because we found out in mid-May, because again, we were on this timeline of, hey, we're working towards 2027 as our referendum date, right? And so when we then found out, oh, you're either doing it in 2026, which you perhaps have to start now, or you have to wait till 2028, which wouldn't deliver a police station until 2030, right? Because and I don't know if our station can hold on for 4 more years. Chief says no, right? So that's kind of why, you're right, it has been rushed because we found out that we weren't exempted. Again, logically you would think a city could do a city capital project, a referendum, when they're having a city election, right? That seemed to make a lot of sense to me, but that's not what the legislature thought. So it is a faster timeline than we had planned. And so, yeah, there were a lot of things moving very quickly, and yes, things were not posted on the website. That was not the intention. But again, that's part of why we also are committing to say, like, let's have the referendum, right? We want to have this community discussion. We're happy to answer these hard questions and go through all these discussions and try to explain this, because it is complicated. And we're happy to have, but we think when the community sees what the need is there and it is justified, and we're doing it in a responsible way that will, frankly, because of the changes, the way we're structuring things, people will not be as impacted as what the ballot referendum question will say. Yeah. Additional public comment?
Hello, my name is Paul Van Clay, 404 North Meridian Street in Lebanon. I guess starting off, I fully support the city in providing all the tools for the police, fire, street department, parks department, all the different departments. The price tag of $52 million or financing that was a shock. I did a little bit of research. Last year, 17,913 people in Lebanon. There's 42 sworn police officers, 26.1 officers per 100,000 residents. That number is 69% higher than the national average for similar communities. So I would think right now we're situated for growth in the city. We're not understaffed. I could be wrong, but just going by national averages. Facility side, typically for a city our size, a police department is between 20,000 and 35,000 square feet. Construction costs are between $580 and $750 per square foot, including infrastructure, IT, generators, dispatch, et cetera. So it's not just the brick and mortar. With that, the estimated cost that I could see for our city should be around $15 to $25 million. So I don't know why we're so high. If somebody can explain that, other than the financing and stuff that was discussed earlier, but the additional building and outfitting. I just don't understand why it's twice the price, potentially, than what you're proposing. The other things with the existing building, it was built in 1962. It was rehabbed, 20 years ago when this facility was built. Right now, I wasn't aware, but I guess the chief of police is the one in charge of maintaining the building. We've also got fire departments, we've got street departments. Does the city not have anyone that's responsible for the buildings? Let the chief of police do his job. He shouldn't be tasked with maintaining the building. I bought my house. It was a former school district administrative offices. I went in, replaced the roof, replaced the sewer, redid walls, electric. That house is twice the age of this building. And I just don't understand how the city can let the existing building get so bad that it's a health issue for the police officers. And then why it's going to cost so much to replace it.
Any comments?
I would like to say one comment to you, sir. You asked why we needed to have such a big building. We're looking for future expansion also. Yes, we have just right under 50 officers right now, and I don't care what anybody says. This town is going to explode, and we're going to grow, and we're going to need more officers. But we don't want to be faced with, and I'm going to give you an example of Whitestown. Whitestown just built a city police station for their department. They're now having to add on or build a second one because they have grown so much and they've exploded. We don't want to be faced with that. We only want to do this one time so that we don't have to come to you a second time and say, hey, we're going to have another referendum to build another building. Yes, it's a lot of money. Yes, it's a burden, but it's a necessary burden. I don't want to put any of our officers at risk. My biggest fear is that one day we're going to come in and someone's going to say, I have that illness that we're going to pay for the rest of our lives. And I don't want that to happen to any of them. But I also don't want to have to build 2 and 3 buildings. Why not have a building that we can build and it's built for future expansion and be able to expand within that building that already exists and then already have it there to where it's not a future financial burden to our taxpayers.
Yeah, I mean, our goal would be to be in this next building another 50 years as well, too, right? I mean, that is the ideal of what we're trying to be, and I think I understand what you're saying. I mean, the square footage, right? Those are what our contractors were saying in the interviews. That's correct. The space study that we did was a conservative, right? It gave the $650 per square foot, right? Worst case scenario, right? So you're right. That $52 million number is high. That's not the goal. We are trying to be below that. So. Good, Senator. Yep.
I really think the only rushed part about this is because of the referendum and finding out the difference in the laws. The rest of it, we really have been working in the background, looking at property. We have been meeting with the the police chief and his staff, and we have been going over a lot of different items that will go into this new building. So it's not like we haven't been working on it, because we have for about a year now or more. It's just that it seems rushed because of that referendum change by the state. This would have come out later.
Yeah, again, the plan was to do it in 2027, not 26. So, yeah. Did you have comments, sir?
Good evening. My main concern is the referendum.
Oh, sir, can you state your name for a record, please? State your name for the record.
You can call me citizen. Referendum, I heard last night somebody say it's very important. Well, yes, it is very important. That's why we elected you, and that's why we pay you to make important decisions. That's not our job. To me, you're just passing the buck. You're letting us make decisions, so when this $600, $214, whatever it is more, you can say, hey, you approved it. We just brought it to you. That's what you guys get paid to do, is make those tough decisions, not the people. Make tough decisions. Stand behind them. Don't make me do your job. It's irresponsible, and quite frankly, it's gutless. And Mayor, last night you said, when that slide went up with all the monies, you said, hey, don't freak out. Well, you know what? When the government tells me to freak out, I probably need to freak out. Tell me how much it's going to cost me. Don't give me a range. Tell me how much it's going to cost me. I have to budget my money too. I don't go up to the county and say, I can't pay you taxes this month because, you know, I wasn't expecting to put a new roof on. That don't fly for us, and it shouldn't fly for you. Tell me how much it's going to cost.
So worst case would be 216.
Say again?
So worst case would be 216.
Worst case.
Worst case.
Oh, got it.
Yep.
Copeland. Last night you said 10 years you've been watching these other cities build their police stations and upgrades and all that. That tells me for 10 years you all haven't been doing anything. Why are we just doing this now? The chief says 20 years this has been going on. And you're just now doing something? You're talking about how unhealthy it is? You guys haven't been doing your job if you're letting police officers work in that kind of environment. That's despicable. That's no way to treat our employees of the city. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Additional public comment? You can bring him up or her up if you want. Okay.
Hello, my name is Sarah Goss. I live in Trotwood Farms. And my concern with this is, it sounds like we really need a new police station, right? That sounds pretty clear. My concern is with the purchasing of the land, where you're gonna put it. It's the apartment. I don't know any of the people at the apartments, but what I've heard online today is that they need a place to live. They're really worried they're gonna be kicked out within 30 days. It's low-income housing. Why not put this in a commercial district? Why not put it somewhere else that's not displacing all of these people? I mean, we have choices, right? And so let's just not do it that way, and let's buy the land somewhere else so we're not displacing these residents that are really important to our city. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Additional public comment? Officer Carlson, since you're here, you want to say anything? Okay. All right, seeing no further movements, I will close the public hearing on Resolution 2026-22. Any final council discussion, comments? We've had our two public hearings. Is there a motion concerning Resolution 2026-22?
Make a motion, we accept and pass resolution number 2026-22.
Motion to approve, is there a second? Second. Second from Rob. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? That is adopted. Thank you, council. Okay, next up will be Resolution 2026-23. Catherine, do you want to touch on this one as well? Yeah.
All right, so 2026-2023 is the resolution electing to hold referendum concerning a new police headquarters. I did revise it slightly, and you have pages showing you what those revisions were. They basically were just adopting some of the whereas clauses from the preliminary determination to give a little more context in this resolution. But what you're doing here is electing to apply the referendum procedures. Again, after we publish notice of adoption of the preliminary determination, there are 30 days that registered voters and property owners can come forward and request a referendum by filing a petition. However, what this resolution says is that if there's no valid petition or no one submits a petition, you're going to move forward with a referendum. So basically, kind of like a voluntary referendum to a certain extent.
Any questions for Catherine on this? Okay. I'll read it, and then we'll have public comment. So this is Resolution 2026-23, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Lebanon electing to hold a referendum concerning a new police headquarters. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Lebanon, Indiana has published notice, conducted 2 public hearings, one on June 17th and one on June 18th, and adopted a resolution making a preliminary determination to take all of the necessary steps to enter into a lease with the Lebanon Building Corporation concerning the financing of any or all or any portion of the cost of the design, construction, equipping of new police headquarters in the city, together with the acquisition of related real property as acquired, any related improvements thereto, collectively the project. And whereas the city and the building corporation will finance all or any portion of the project through the issuance of bonds in one or more series and other funds of the city, and the city lease payments to be paid under the lease will be paid from an ad valorem property tax levied and collected on all taxable property within the geographical boundaries of the city. And whereas the proposed lease with respect to the project will have a term no longer than 20 years, commencing on the date of issuance of the bonds, with the maximum annual lease rental of $4,689,000, based upon an estimated aggregate principal amount of the bonds of $52,165,000, estimated interest rate of 5.5%, and a total estimated interest cost $35,918,413. And whereas the council has determined that it is in the best interest of the citizens of the city to undertake the public question process set forth in Indiana Code 6-1, 120-3.5 and 3.6 to approve the financing of the project. Now therefore be resolved by the Common Council of the City of Lebanon, Indiana as follows. The council hereby elects that pursuant to Indiana Code, the public question process applies to the approval of the issuance of bonds by the Public Building Corporation and entering into a lease finance of the project. In the pursuant Indiana Code, this Common Council hereby elects that a public question concerning the project be placed on the ballot at the November 3rd, 2026 general election. The mayor and clerk treasurer of the city are each authorized and directed to undertake the approval of the language of the public question by the Boone County Election Board and the Indiana Department of Local Government and Finance in such a manner to enable the public question to be voted upon at the November 3rd, 2026 general election, which is anticipated to be as follows. Shall the City of Lebanon, Indiana increase property taxes paid to the city for no more than 20 years for the purpose of funding all or any portion of the cost of the design, construction, and equipping of a new police headquarters in the city, together with the acquisition of related real property as required and any related improvements thereto, for which the principal debt amount for the project will cost no more than $52,165,000, and the financing cost, including the interest and fees, will cost no more than additional $35,918,413. As estimated to increase the property taxes paid to the city by imposing a property tax rate that results in a maximum annual amount that does not exceed $4,454,550. If this capital referendum public question is approved by the voters for a median residence of $250,000, the property's annual property tax bill would increase by $216 per year. The mayor and clerk treasurer are each authorized and directed to file with the Indiana Department of Local Government and Finance the information concerning the project as set forth in the Indiana Code at least 30 days before the November 3rd, 2026 general election. Resolution has been read. Is there any public comment concerning Resolution 2026-23? Further discussion from council? Motion?
I make a motion, we accept and pass resolution number 2026-23.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second from Sandra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, council. All right, that concludes what I have on the agenda for the special meeting. Anything else from council? Okay. Any final comments or thoughts? Okay. With that, we entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Our next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be June 22nd at 7:15 p.m. We are adjourned.